Alrighty, yeah, let's get it going then. Hey everybody, Trey here with the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. Today on this episode of Next Gen Unscripted, I'm joined by Kat Carter, Friends of the Rappahannock.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. We've been trying to schedule this one. Unfortunately, Kat was sick last week.
Yeah, it's going around.
Yeah, so I think like everyone has something.
Yeah.
I just got over a cold, but I think yours was a little bit more serious.
It knocked me out, but I'm back in action and excited. So.
Yeah. Well, you look great. You seem great. We are talking about a few things today about you, Friends of the Rappahannock, an upcoming event that we're working together on where we are sending volunteers to the Bowman facility.
Very excited about that event.
Yeah.
Jazzed to talk about it.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's our first time sending volunteers, so we're going to talk a lot about that, and I think it's going to be a good one. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll start off just by getting to know who Kat is and how she got to Friends of the Rappahannock and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, first, Kat, I did want to ask, I see you have a really cool mug. What's going on here?
Well, in doing my preparation for this podcast today, I watched some of your other podcasts. And I noticed
homework.
I did my homework, and I noticed that Andy, during his podcast, had a really cool mug. And I thought, well, I have cool mugs. I should definitely bring one of my cool mugs. So I've got my tea here. I'm ready to go. And
What type of tea is that?
oh, it's actually a spicy ginger tea.
Spicy ginger. Is there no caffeine?
No caffeine on this one.
And where's the mug from? I saw the little signature on the bottom.
Yeah, so this is I'm from Michigan originally, and so this is from a local Detroit artist that I really like her work, and so brought it with me when I came down to Fredericksburg.
I'm into it. I love the color, and like there's like a little grip on there too.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's like a very cozy hold.
Yeah, very cozy hold. Awesome. Oh, and spicy ginger sounds cozy.
Yeah.
I do drink some tea. I'm caffeine free.
Okay, all the time.
All the time. I mean, every so often I'll have a soda.
Okay.
And I'll do decaf coffee, which does have like traces of caffeine.
Okay.
But yeah, I quit caffeine.
That's wild. I am a very early bird, so I'm up at like 5.
Oh.
And I'm very caffeinated until about 9, which is 4 hours of caffeine in. So I feel like that's probably a good
Fair.
stance.
Yeah. What are you doing at 5 a.m.? You like walking dogs, working out?
Walking dogs, working out. Sometimes I'll get some work done. A lot of times it's like reading or side projects or hobbies.
Okay.
I feel like my job is very public facing and engaging with people, which I absolutely love. But sometimes it's nice to just have like quiet time.
Yeah.
And so it's like a very peaceful time of the day for me.
Okay. Yeah, right on. I am not an early morning guy. I mean, I can be, but it is not often that I'm up at 5 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, conversely, I'm going to bed at like 8:30. I'm like,
You're at
I'll
8:30?
take my book into bed.
Meemaw style. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Well, you had just said earlier that you had got that from Detroit, that mug. So tell me a little bit about how you found your way back to Fredericksburg and to Detroit. Like, tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So actually born and raised in Detroit. I met my fiance in Detroit, and he coerced me into coming down to Virginia. So he grew up in Stafford and wanted to move to be closer to his folks. And so, we were dating and talking about making this move for a long time. And it was pretty funny. He accepted a job with the VA, so he's a chiropractor.
Right. A chiropractor.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so I don't know if anybody is familiar with the VA or government hiring
Brand new.
processes, but they can take a long time. And so it was pretty comical because he got his job offer and then it was like waiting and wasn't sure. And meanwhile, I was looking for jobs here.
Right. Yeah. That's the tricky thing too about moving as a couple. You both got to find a job.
Yeah. And so I was doing environmental work in Detroit in urban forestry. And so I was looking for other organizations in Fredericksburg that I could either volunteer with or get involved in some way. And Friends of the Rappahannock just happened to have the development director position open.
Yeah.
And so it felt very kismet to find this role. And so I ended up interviewing and having a solid job offer and start date before he did. And so it was really comical because his family was like, we thought for sure you wouldn't make it.
Well, that's government for you. Like you said, it takes a while. It's the hurry up and wait.
Yes.
Yeah, you have the job offer. That doesn't mean you have the job yet. It just means you have to wait for it to start a year or two later. And obviously the VA hospital is a massive installation.
Oh,
it just came in and that's great. So he was a chiropractor in Detroit too then? Okay.
Yeah, he was working for some different medical groups and doing like direct to employer healthcare. And then, I wanted to make the move and was lucky enough to get in at the VA. So.
I love the chiropractor. Do you get free chiropractor sessions?
Oh, yeah. It's a perk of the relationship.
There you
definitely.
go. There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, cool. So you found your way back to Fredericksburg. When did you move back again or move here for the first time?
Yeah. So we moved in April of last year. So coming up on our year anniversary. We're very excited.
Yeah. And Fredericksburg, the whole region, how do you like it so far?
You know, I I'm a staunch Detroiter, so I was kind of ready to not love it. And I love it.
You do?
I
You're
do.
in proper Detroit too, like in the city?
Yeah, in the city proper. But it's so, I mean, and I really thank Friends of the Rappahannock for some of this, because it's been such a great mechanism to get to know the community.
Sure.
But it is such a community-oriented place. And the availability of nature that we have here, I mean, I can go 15 minutes and have like a beautiful whitewater paddle, or I can hit trails. And in Detroit, that's at least a 2-hour drive. So I think the community focus we have and the nature and just like the walkability, it is really lovely.
That is awesome.
So I actually love it.
That's great. Well, I've never been to Detroit, but one of my favorite comedians, Tim Robinson's like really big in Detroit, and he's always at their games.
Yeah.
And I know they have do you miss a lot of the sports culture of Detroit, or?
You know, being a Lions fan is really just kind of being beaten up all the time.
Builds your spirit up.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like masochism there, I think. But I do miss that sports culture. It was funny when the Lions were playing the Commanders. We like went to a bar with our Lions gear. And we felt very excited, and then we had to leave at halftime. It was so depressing, which is very stereotypical of the Lions. So.
Yeah, that is true, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But similar to Washington, I mean, the Commanders, we ain't great, but this year we were.
Yeah.
For once, and hopefully they keep it up and up.
Yeah, it's exciting to see kind of our teams triumphing or getting better at least.
Yeah. And I do think we do fall in the Washington Commanders region, but it's not like where it's Detroit, where you know, you are in Detroit, of course, and we're not quite in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
We have the event coming up with Paige from the Commanders and Robbie of the Fred Nats there. It's our sports event.
That'll be very cool.
You been to the Fred Nats games yet?
I have been to the Fred Nats games, and those are so fun.
They're so fun.
The stadium is great. You've got like great crowd engagement. So yeah, I really have enjoyed that.
The crowd engagement's incredible, and I hope that we build with the Fred Nats to get to like the tradition, I suppose, of Detroit sports. Not the tradition of losing, but
you don't want to bring that.
No, but the tradition of all the fans, the culture, and such is great.
Yeah, it's nice to have something so local, and I think it really has opportunity to bring the community together and like create that culture of celebration.
Totally. And they definitely they just won the region, so that was big for us.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay, I need to follow it better.
Yeah. So back to Fredericksburg. You moved here. You love it so far. You found the Friends of the Rap.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit. I actually forgot your title. What's your title there?
I am the
development coordinator.
Development director.
Yeah. Director. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you were doing something similar in Detroit, you said?
Yeah. So I was doing development work for an urban forestry nonprofit out that way. But it's interesting, and it's been a fun transition. I think Friends of the Rap has done a really great job in investing and in diversifying their roles. So in Detroit, I was kind of wearing a lot of hats, and I'm still wearing a lot of hats here in Fredericksburg, but not quite as many. And so it's great. And some of the other members of our team, like Liz Harris, she's our wonderful volunteer and community engagement manager. Yeah. So she's like really zoned in on that aspect, which is great because then I can zone in on the development piece.
There you go. That's good. And the life of nonprofit, you always have to do a couple different things.
Yeah.
But like I'm just glad that it's more isolated and more specific for you now.
Yeah.
And so tell us, Friends of the Rap, you were saying they do a lot of different services. They're branched out. I'm familiar with a lot of it or some of it, depends, I guess. I would love to ask you and for our viewers, well, tell me everything about the Friends of the Rap. What y'all do?
Everything. All right. Friends of the Rappahannock. We are a nonprofit watershed conservation organization. We were founded in 1985, so this year is really exciting. It's our 40th anniversary.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're super pumped about that. We are one of the only organizations who actually works on the entirety of the watershed. So we work from the headwaters, way out past Culpeper, all the way down to where the Rappahannock meets the bay.
Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing job postings where it will say like, Culpeper or King George. I'm like, okay.
Yep. So we're everywhere. So we've got those 18 counties. And we really have 3 core pillars of service. So the first is advocacy. So we work to make sure that the Rappahannock is clean and healthy. And we work at federal, state, and local levels.
Okay.
The second pillar is our education work. So we work to educate the next generation of environmental stewards. So in the last 40 years, we've educated over 150,000 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive.
Okay.
We're super proud of that work. And the third pillar is our restoration work. So that's really the on-the-ground work to make sure the river is clean and healthy. And that looks very different in the headwaters and in Fredericksburg and in the tidal region. So again, we've got that 185 miles, and what works in one place doesn't work in the other.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
guess
it's
so.
kind of cool to see the different versions.
Sure. Well, I'm not familiar with conservation in that regard.
Yeah.
But I imagine, like you said, it's very different. I mean, even like once you get all the way down closer to the bay, just more salinity in the water and small things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like up in the headwaters, we're doing a lot of, which sounds kind of wild, it's cattle exclusion. So we're trying to keep cows out of the river because they bring pollutants into the river that flow down. And so we're doing a lot of like tree plantings along the river.
Okay.
Here in Fredericksburg, you're likely familiar. I know Next Gen has done some work, but a lot of litter cleanups, a lot of stormwater management, a lot of just educating the public.
Yeah.
And then down towards Rappahannock is really where we get into like the oyster restoration work.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So it's like that is our focus down there. We're installing living shorelines. We're working on our oyster reseeding program. So a little
I
different.
have so many questions. So I'm gonna start too with the cattle you were saying.
Okay.
So I'm from Roanoke and at Smith Mountain Lake.
Okay.
You watch the cattle just like walk straight into the lake, which is twice as gross because it's a lake. It's not a river. Water's stagnant-ish. You know, obviously there's some circulation, but compared to a river, like, cattle getting in the river is bad because it goes down the river, but in the lake, it's even worse. So I'm like, ugh. Yeah. So I'm glad that you guys are doing, and so tree planting helps with that.
Yeah. So, well, tree planting does a couple things. So tree planting can stabilize the river banks. So there's less runoff. We're going to get a little nerdy. So
Please.
the biggest
nerd it out.
So the biggest pollutants in the Rappahannock are nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment. So you're thinking about agricultural runoff and just soil erosion.
Okay.
And that has a whole host of issues that it causes downstream. But so tree planting helps to stabilize those shore banks so there's less runoff happening. It'll also block some of those pollutants from running off. And then the cattle exclusion, if there's a bunch of trees the cows can't really get through, and we'll also work with landowners to put up fencing along those streams or river banks.
Okay, great. Well, that's good. And that's, I mean, obviously we want a clean river and not be swimming in cow runoff,
exactly.
to say the least.
Cow runoff.
Yeah, cow runoff. And you were saying, so the oysters too, living shorelines. I've always heard that oysters are good for the environment, and that's as far as my knowledge goes. Tell me more.
Okay, oysters are super cool. And again, coming from Michigan, oysters were not part of my lexicon. And so
Or diet.
Or diet, definitely not. So it's been really fun to come and learn about something totally new. So oysters are actually a keystone organism, which basically means you've heard, of course, of like food webs and ecosystems. And if you take one thing out, it impacts the whole system. But oysters, if you take oysters out, the entire system collapses. It cannot function without oysters. And that's because they provide so much habitat for other organisms, for grasses, for fishes, but they're also cleaning the water. So a single fully grown oyster filters 50 gallons of water a day, and they're removing impurities and pollutants. So they're super, super critical to our ecosystems.
So are the Friends of the Rap, I don't know if planting is the right word, planting oyster installations in the river? Okay.
Yeah, we are. So we've planted over 5 million oysters.
Dang, okay.
And I really love our oyster program because it feels very like community focused.
Sure.
So it actually starts here in Fredericksburg where we recycle the oyster shells. So we have some really great community partners, Renato's, Port Oysteria. And so when you're eating your oysters there, they're actually putting those in a bucket and we're going to take those and recycle them.
Okay.
So then those shells travel all the way down to our office or our location in Weems, and we put the shells out and we bleach them in the sun, and then we bag them up and we put them in a settling tank, which I like to think of as an oyster jacuzzi.
Oyster jacuzzi.
And we take, so they're in this big tank, these bags of shell, and we take larvae and you sprinkle it into this oyster jacuzzi.
Oyster larva?
Oyster larva. And then the larva falls and settles on the shell. And what's really important is oysters want to grow on oyster shells or substrate.
Gotcha.
So if we like overfish, for example, and there are not oyster shells, the new baby oysters don't have anywhere to land and settle. And so what we do is we let them settle and they become what's called spat on shell. We let them sit in their jacuzzi for 2 weeks and get well established, and then we take them out of the bags and then we go and plant them into the waterways.
Gotcha. Now, is that a volunteer role that someone can work with? Or
absolutely. So we love our volunteers. We super, super appreciate them. In Fredericksburg, we've got a few key volunteers who actually help with that shell pickup. So going to the restaurants and bringing it to our office, just over on Fall Hill, and that's really helpful logistically. And then down in Weems, we need help bagging and again, then dumping them out into the waterways.
Where is Weems?
You know,
sorry to anyone listening from Weems.
Is
that Culpeper? No,
So
other direction?
yeah, past Rappahannock, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so going
Gotcha.
out towards the bay. So again, the salinity of the water, we're going towards the bay
Got it.
with
Okay.
the oysters.
Okay.
And I very much almost Michigandered you and was like, if this is Virginia, anyways.
Gotcha. Okay.
The hand
I see.
map.
The hand map. I hear. Yeah, the mitt versus, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I once actually volunteered with Friends of the Rap to do a few times, but one time we did a river cleanup.
Okay.
And it was so much fun. We did the what Brent called the easy part.
Oh, yes.
Which was just which park was it? It was all the way to City Docks is where we ended, but we started at
was it Old Mill or Riverside?
Old Mill. It was Old Mill.
Yeah.
I was it Riverside, but yeah, it was definitely Old Mill. So yeah, we started there, and what is that, like, half a mile? But it's so fun. We had a blast.
Okay.
It was hard work, and it's just crazy what you find in there too. We found like street signs and tires and someone that is actively hitting their golf balls from their property.
Oh yeah, just like hundreds and thousands of golf balls.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know that some are I can be I don't know what the term is. They're recyclable, and you can hit them in the water and they dissolve.
Oh yeah, like biodegradable.
Yeah. But I don't think these ones were. I don't think these ones were.
There's so much in our waterways, but
yeah. So it was eye opening, but it was just fun.
Yeah,
it was very fun. Definitely want to do it again. Sign me up.
Yeah, but come on out anytime.
My mom also collects oyster shells.
Oh, cool.
Not for recycling, but not for repurposing them back into the river. She just creates like ornaments and such with them. She does decoupage onto it.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of really neat oyster artwork in Fredericksburg, or really since moving to the region. And it's really cool to see how creative people can be with the oyster shells.
Yeah, well, we'll get you some, I'll have to get your logo, and I'll send it to my mom to do some Friends of the Rap oyster
that would be incredible.
Decorations for you.
Okay, please and thank you.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
But that's really great. So a lot of different volunteer opportunities and things that you all do.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Next Gen, we have a partnership with you all that we just announced. Next Gen is collecting volunteers. We still need 2 more for those listening for an event y'all are doing, Bourbon on the Half Shell. I've not been to this event. I've done my research, but I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Bourbon on the Half Shell. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is the flagship first one of Bourbon on the Half Shell.
Inaugural.
So, yes, inaugural. That's the word. So nobody's been before. And we're super excited. So A. Smith Bowman, they're just incredible partners. If anyone's come to Riverfest, you know that they're always there. And they are just great partners of ours. So they are putting this benefit on in our honor, which is great. They're helping us to raise some funds for our work. And it's going to just be a really wonderful evening. So Riverfest, if our followers have been, it's kind of
love Riverfest.
Yeah,
I always help run it a little bit, do some MC and DJ work for you out there. Love it. So what's the difference between Riverfest and this one? Yeah,
so it's kind of similar, and it's all you can eat, but this time it's oysters and craft cocktails. And think about Bourbon on the Half Shell is like Riverfest's fancy little sister. So it's a more intimate event, but we're going to have a string quartet. We're going to have beautiful string lights. So it's more of an elevated experience than like a big crab sort of picnic feast.
Okay. A string quartet. Are they doing, what are they playing?
I don't know.
Is it like pop music, or are they doing classic?
I think it might be like a little Pop Goes Classical, little like Bridgerton vibes.
Cool.
Yeah, so it should be fun.
Yeah. We I believe that's what, 4:30 to
8:30 on April 5th.
Okay.
And we're gonna have there'll be an exclusive distillery tour that's not normally open to the public.
Okay.
They're going to have allotted bourbons available for tasting. So for my bourbon lovers, it'll be kind of a fun one.
Sure.
And then all you can eat oysters. So some really great bounty of the Rappahannock.
Sure. Are we doing different types of oysters? Are they like some Rockefeller, some straight from the shell? How's that going to look?
Yeah, so there'll be definitely raw oysters, and then there's also going to be, I think we'll have steamed and Rockefeller, and then there's also going to be other food there. So if folks aren't totally down with the oysters, there's other things to eat.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have a shellfish allergy, obviously look elsewhere, but there's a couple other options for them.
Yes, there's definitely other snacky food.
Yeah. So I'm not true by the book, but I try to be a vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
But oysters have never reached that definition for me.
Okay. Why?
Because I was told they were good for the environment.
Yeah.
They're not as cute as cows and pigs.
This is true.
So I've never had an issue with them. I don't know if I'm angering vegans out there with this statement, but I'm trying to help the environment,
Yeah, eating oysters is helpful to the environment. And I mean, it supports so many economies, right? Like watermen, people who depend on this, oyster farmers. It's really, it's great to eat local oysters. We should absolutely be doing it. Okay. And I also don't want to offend my vegan friends, but oysters are the only bivalve that doesn't have a nervous system.
Oh.
So if you're worried about eating a creature that's aware that it's being eaten, that's not an oyster.
They don't know.
They don't know.
Do they have a soul? I'm kidding. Don't
let's
They don't have a nervous system. I'm not sure. Okay.
Do they have a soul?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's a trivia question for you.
Yeah.
But there's only 2 food or drinks that we have as humans that are completely not organic, meaning they're not like carbon based. They were never alive, never came from an animal or plant. Do you know what those 2 products are?
Oh gosh.
One of them's super obvious.
Well,
first one's water.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then the other one is salt.
Oh.
Yeah. Those are the only 2 ingredients we do that are not derived from nature at all. Well, from plants or animals.
From living things. Interesting. Okay, I was immediately thinking like an Oreo. So I was going like, what is kind of processed and also vegan? And anyways, I went to an Oreo.
Yeah, I always forget that Oreos are vegan.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, they still come from plants. But yeah, not... But yeah, those are the only 2. That's funny. Yeah, you're like thinking Twinkies, something like super synthetic.
Right. Yeah, it'll live for like 80 years in your shoe or something.
Yeah, it was like carbon printed or 3D printed food. Yeah. So, okay, great. Oysters, great for the environment.
Super great.
The event, it's at Bowman's.
Yes.
You're working with Kelsey. And what's their distiller's name?
Oh.
Do you know?
Oh, man. He's
Put you
so
on the
lovely.
spot. Dan.
Dan,
Sorry.
it is Dan.
Is it Dan?
No, it's not Dan.
Sorry.
I thought
he's awesome. I know what you mean. We might cut this.
I can picture him in my mind. It'll come to me.
Yeah, they're super great to work with. I was really hoping to interview Kelsey too one day.
I know.
She's awesome, and we'll see her on that Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, next year we have about 8 people right now signed in to help volunteer.
Which is going to be so great. And hopefully a really fun volunteer opportunity because you'll get to enjoy the atmosphere of the evening as well.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more. Again, I know what to do myself, but like what are we doing? What are we wearing?
Yeah. Okay. What are we doing? What are we wearing? So it's really just a fun party. Honestly, I think it'd be like a great date night activity. If you're looking for something to do on a Saturday, that's kind of the atmosphere. We will have a little silent auction there, but otherwise it's not like an activity event. There's not an itinerary. It's just come, enjoy, taste the bourbon, taste the oysters, enjoy the lovely weather that we're going to have.
Sure.
So dress code wise, I think it's kind of an upscale, swanky event. I'm trying to find myself like a little oyster dress or something. Dress,
okay.
But yeah, dress, I think like your spring wear, business casual.
Spring wear, cocktail.
Yeah, cocktail attire would be totally appropriate.
Right on. I can't wait for it. It's going to be very great. Yeah. I believe I'm working on the bar.
I think you are.
Which
You're
I'm excited.
bartending, I believe.
I used to bartend for a while, so I'm good.
Okay.
I got it.
What don't you do, Trey?
I don't know anymore. Okay. The list is getting smaller of things I don't do. I don't eat meat often.
Okay, that's
about
a
it.
good one.
But yeah, I DJ, I bartended, I do the trivia. Yeah, there's a lot of
You don't do caffeine.
Don't do caffeine.
Okay, now what made you make these dietary shifts?
Well, which one? We'll start with caffeine. That's easier.
Okay.
I was just so needlessly, hopelessly addicted to caffeine.
Yeah.
And I recognized this on a vacation. I was in Italy with a friend, and I just constantly, I need coffee.
Okay.
I need coffee. And it was getting to the point because there were little shots of espresso where I was doing it like every 40 minutes. Like we would just be walking, like they got espresso and just go take a shot.
A little shot.
Yeah. And then I just got back home and I was like, I didn't like that feeling of needing anything.
Yeah.
I actually still love the flavor of coffee and I think it's healthy. I don't want to discourage anyone, but I just didn't want to be needing anything, whether obviously I need water and that's never going away, but I didn't want to need the caffeine to survive.
Yeah.
So I just weaned off it and I did it where I just slowly switched to half calf, then slowly switched from half calf to decaf. And I still drink decaf from time to time.
Okay.
But my body now is so sensitive. Even decaf gives me a little kick.
Interesting. Yeah, I assume you build up a tolerance over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't wean off, there's a very, very tough withdrawals that you get. Yeah. And I still had those occasionally at work at 3 p.m. because I was doing 3 cups a day. And after lunch, I would just be dying. Like I needed to like do handstands, get a little caffeine,
Yeah.
go out on the canal path and walk just to stay awake.
Ugh.
It was only a few days because I weaned off correctly, but
Okay.
people who don't wean off like that, it's
a rough go.
yeah. I don't think it's going to put you in the hospital or nothing, but it is tough. You
Yeah.
will hate yourself for a day at least.
Ugh. Yeah.
So it's a tough one. But you just do coffee and caffeine in the morning.
Yeah, generally just in the morning. Every once in a while, I'll have like an afternoon coffee. And my job is really fun that I take a lot of meetings where it's like, let's grab an afternoon coffee.
Right.
So it's kind of an excuse.
There you go. I get it.
But
I was doing the same thing. I would have one in the morning,
Yeah.
one at lunch or like the afternoon.
yeah.
And then usually I would have one if I had a gig or anything to do
Oh,
in the
yeah.
evening at 5 p.m.
Well, that makes sense if
Yeah.
you're staying up late and doing all that.
Now, again, I don't do that anymore, but I definitely was 3 cups a day. It was pretty tough and sometimes more.
Yeah.
And like I said on that one vacation, who knows how much espresso I inhaled.
You like laughed and the espresso market had to rebound. They were like, we can't meet the demand. They over-ordered
In Italy.
and then you
Yep.
left. Yeah.
Yep. Dude, I there was a point in my life where I could probably drink espresso and go straight to bed.
Oh my gosh.
Just like dessert. And a lot of people still do that.
Yeah, that's true. People's bodies can do incredible things.
Yeah, for real. I witnessed it. I do miss like a good cup of coffee, but I have
Yeah.
decaf that I can do. But yeah, it's tough.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, events coming up. I'm excited for that.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any other Friends of the Rappahannock events that we could market? Don't you have a film fest?
Yeah, there's so much happening. So I mentioned it is our 40th anniversary. And so I just want to share, we're also celebrating our 40th anniversary with a capital campaign. So we're trying to raise funds to perpetuate our work for the next 40 years.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of events coming in support of that. So the Bourbon on the Half Shell event is in support of that. So your ticket is going to really help us invest in kind of
It's big.
the next chapter of
Okay.
our work. We have the Wild and Scenic Film Fest that's happening this Saturday on UMW's
real
campus.
close. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And it's going to be great. I think we've got about 2 hours of films, and they're all sort of environmentally focused, conservation oriented. They're supposed to really inspire you to get out and get excited for spring,
Sure.
which I think we all need a little bit
Yeah.
of.
Oh, seeing. I mean, it's not sunny today.
Yeah.
But it's been so beautiful this week, and
It
we're ready for
has.
that invigoration to get back out there.
We definitely are. And so we've got Wild and Scenic, that's March 15th. Bourbon on the Half Shell's April 5th. And then on June 8th, we're going to have kind of our 40th birthday party.
Sure.
So we're doing a benefit concert. We're going to have Hazel Run and Fall Line
Cool.
play.
Very cool.
And that's going to be a great community event to be determined on location because
Sure.
we're
It's June, you got time.
yeah, we've got time. We're renovating our building as part of this big 40th celebration. So we're gonna be like doubling our classroom space and
Great.
making some other needed upgrades, making it ADA accessible, et
Sure.
cetera. So we're not
Okay.
sure if we'll be ready to host a concert there yet.
Right.
But we hope to.
Yeah, I was wondering about when it would be open, so that date is still.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're thinking we'll be ready to go by May, but with construction, things can adjust and take a little more time than you expect. So we don't want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can be a bummer. Well, that's great. Have you all? I know there's a Fredericksburg Film Fest coming up. I'll have to
There
get you all in
is.
touch and see if there can be a crossover with your festivals.
Yeah, it would be really fun. I attended it last year as just like a human
Oh, yeah.
in the world, and
As
I
a-
really enjoyed
As a
it.
human.
Yeah, as a human.
As opposed to anything else.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I know
As
what
an
you mean.
oyster.
I know what you mean. Just give me a hard time. They had an oyster. It was in the Chesapeake Bay, but they had an oyster documentary.
I saw that one.
Yeah,
I
that was-
really liked it. It
Yeah,
was
I met
great.
the director of that one, and
Oh, cool.
turns out we had like a mutual friend from college and stuff too.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So that's a lot of fun stuff happening.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of volunteer roles. We're filling some
yeah.
for you all. And
Yes.
if we may ask, what are a couple of the volunteer roles we can get into? You'd mentioned the oyster stocking. Is there anything else?
Oh, yeah.
River cleanups.
River cleanups are a great way to get involved. And then also, if you don't mind a little bit of a drive, we've got tree plantings. We do tree plantings here in the Fredericksburg area as well. But we've got lots of plantings that kind of happen upriver. So if
Okay.
you're interested in a little bit of a road trip going up about 40 minutes, we've got
Sounds fun.
tons of tree planting work there.
Okay.
We also have in Culpeper, we have our own conservation nursery. So we're growing our own tree stock to then be
Cool.
outplanted in the communities. But we always have needs at the nursery. So there's lots that you can do in terms of like replanting or pruning or,
Sure.
or helping take care of that stock.
That's cool. With the tree planting or any other things, do you guys have like a fun Friends of the Rappahannock like van that you all go up in, or are we driving up solo?
Usually our volunteers are driving up solo.
Okay.
I mean, we do have like the Riverfest shuttles and stuff like that. Maybe I'll talk to the team about making it like a party bus up to the planting.
The party bus. I love it. Right on. Well, I think most people are. I don't think this is a controversial thing to say. I'm a huge fan of the river.
Yeah.
I'm constantly on it or trying to, and I'm a bird watcher.
Yeah.
I like birds.
Birding hit you, huh? You hit the age of birding.
I got there. Well, it happened during COVID.
Okay.
And then I don't know, just you fall in love with it, and the sound you learn the calls, the sounds, the patterns they do. You follow the maps, and it's so fun.
That is cool. It's a great hobby, and it's a great way to get outside and engage.
Have you seen an otter yet on the river?
Okay, I've not seen an otter on the river. I have seen an otter in a creek in Stafford.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so probably
cool.
It is part of the watershed, but not on the river proper. Have you seen an otter on the river?
Yeah, I have it on video. Well, it's a very bad video. It's like very X-Files-esque. Like you can just see it like pop its head over the water and back in. And I'm screaming the whole time, like, there it is.
There's the otter.
and then it pops up again like a couple yards down. And it's like very Loch Ness Monster-y. You know, you can't really tell. But I mean, I choose to believe. And I knew it was an otter because I saw it with my human eyes. You know?
You knew it. I did see the first time I went kayaking on the Rappahannock, I saw the fattest beaver.
Yes.
And that was so exciting.
Yeah, seeing the beavers are cool.
Chunky. They are big.
Yes, they are chunky. I saw one on the canal, and it was right after a big storm, and there was a tree that fell down, and it was just, had so much food.
Yeah,
it was so
he was
happy.
Just thrilled.
It was thrilled.
Living his best little life.
We, in South Carolina, the story is funny. My mom won't like the story, and I don't know if Susan will either, me sharing it. There was, in our pond right outside our house in South Carolina, we saw there were these beavers.
Yeah.
And me and my mom are filming them, and they went underwater for a second, and then they came back up, and it was very clear that they were mating. And my mom's like, Trey, stop filming. And I'm like, no, this is hilarious.
You have explicit beaver videos.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I still have the video of my mom like, Trey, turn it off.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
And then, of course, I do. I'm going to give them their space.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because my mom's like, they're so cute. I'm like, Mom, they're dancing.
They're doing their natural thing. Oh,
Yeah.
that is really funny.
It was so funny to walk into that in our backyard, especially with my mother of all people.
Right.
That's nothing you want to see with your mom.
No.
Yeah, mating. Beaver footage. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wonderful. This is so fun.
Yeah, this is so fun. Thanks for having me.
Your first podcast. Would you do another one?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a lovely little chat.
Oh, it's so comfortable. It's the easiest work you do all day.
Yeah. Really great way to start. When Thursday? It's Thursday. I know what day it is.
Yeah, we're there. It's tough. It's so foggy or cloudy.
It is. It's gray. It feels like it should be winter again.
Yeah. Sometimes I complain about work, but then you do this, and you're like, this is the best.
Yeah, this is fun. I feel the same way. I mean, how can you hate your job if you're working for the river?
Right. Yeah, that's
which is so incredible. Like,
absolutely.
How can you complain about it?
It's very I'm sure it's like very fulfilling, satisfying, and sometimes you have huge wins and. Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited to help volunteer. It's fun. Like that event specifically, it's fun.
It's a fun event. And I didn't mention, but like we always need volunteers for our events. So Riverfest is a huge one. We didn't get that far in our event calendar, but that's happening.
That's a big one.
September 20th this year. Save the date, everyone. But we need hundreds of volunteers for that, and that's always a great time. So if planting trees or bagging oyster isn't your thing and you want to work at an event, we'd love to have your help.
That's a fun one. I'm always there, and we'll be in no matter what capacity, whether I go as a guest, a volunteer, or as you would say, human.
Yes, come as a human. Come as your human self.
It's gonna be great. Well, great. I think we have recorded such a good podcast here. We can probably wrap it up.
Everyone loves it. Best podcast ever. My mug is better than Andy's. Don't tell him.
He's going to see it.
Oh, no.
We'll let him approach. Yeah, we'll cut it out. Kat, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Trey.
Yeah, of course. We'll have to do something like this again. Tell everyone at the office that said, hey, Miss Liz and Bryn, everybody.
I know. You should have all of us in.
I should have.
Okay.
We can fit in here. Yeah. We'll need an extra camera, but yeah, we can fit everybody. We have more mics.
Okay.
Yeah. This is Next Gen Unscripted. I'm Trey. Shout out to our sponsors. We have Hub International, Community Title Network, and is soon to announce a couple more. We're really excited. But guys, thank you all so much for listening. It's going to be a great week and a great event. Bourbon on the Half Shell.
Yes.
Awesome.
Come on out.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again, Kat.
All right. Thanks, Trey.
All right. See y'all.